think there are many much more mover or shaker than our next guest. It's Pat Cunnane. He's president and CEO of Advanced Sports International. Welcome to Good Morning Interbike.
Thanks, David.
It's good to
Thrilled
see you.
to be here.
It's great to see you. Before we get into ASI and what you guys are doing these days, I think it's important for people to understand where you came from. You've been in the industry how long now?
Since 1970.
So you were 2?
12.
What were you doing in 1970?
I was working in a bike shop.
Like a lot of us, right?
Like a lot of us, yeah. And it was this shop was across the street from the school I went to grade school in, and they made me wait until I was 12. I was in there hanging out every day after school, and then they finally relented and started literally. I was a gopher.
Yep.
I would go for milkshakes and go for Lance crackers for the guys, and they eventually I was fixing flats, and it was, I think, my most fun thing in retrospect was one of my jobs on Saturdays was changing the numbers. So at that point in the bike boom, this is, I was there for a little while, so 71, 72, you took a number when you came into the store.
Oh, right.
And you would get called, so number 42. So we had 60 numbers, and I would have to take them from the back and rearrange them so people could take their number and buy a bike and be told that your bike, if you want the blue, the sky blue Schwinn Varsity, that'll be available in 4.5 weeks.
Wow.
Different world.
Times have changed, haven't they? Right now you order it on your smartphone, and the next thing you know,
Yeah.
you go and you pick it up. Now, obviously, you're not still working in that bike shop. From there, you were at a variety of brands.
I got, like a lot of people that work in bike shops, I wanted to, you do what you see. So
Yeah.
I saw salespeople coming in, and I thought, I could, and you get to know me, I could do that job. So I was hired at District Cycle, which was a regional jobber, as an outside sales rep in 1979, which was another sort of boom year. BMX was really coming on strong then.
Yeah.
Got that experience, loved it, but then, in that role, I sort of sold the people in product and the management structure, and I thought I could do that.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough in 1982 to get hired at Ross Bicycles, which at the time was the number 2 brand in the specialty retail market.
Yeah.
And we were really able to ride a wave with mountain bikes. So, in the mid-'80s, we were selling 100,000 mountain bikes.
Wow.
The different world. They unfortunately went bankrupt in '87. I took a job at Giant, finished college, hadn't done that, so I got back to that. And then I started my own business in 1992.
And I think that, and you and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, I think that really is where I sort of became aware of you, because it was at a time when Japan had really become a force in bicycle manufacturing, bicycle component manufacturing, and Taiwan was there, and they had started to make some really high quality products, and yet there was this stigma. It was made in Taiwan, and you went and you really helped a lot of these brands become known as quality manufacturers with products that you could trust.
And I was fortunate. When I was at Ross, I started to visit Taiwan in 1984.
Yeah.
So, by the time I started my business, I had really great relationships. And as you know, this business is really all about relationships.
Yeah.
And the companies over there were building really good products, but they weren't marketing their brands. They were, basically selling on price.
Right.
And our sort of niche was to work with a lot of these companies and develop a brand image for them and a positioning for them, within the industry.
Yeah.
And, it was great. It was a great time, and many of those companies are, the brands today.
Absolutely. Yeah.
In the industry.
Yeah.
So I love that. I learned a lot.
So fast forward, 2001.
2001, my business was, the fast forward is, what I was doing with those brands was selling them to the U.S. manufacturers. So, in 1999, there were more than 6 million bikes being sold and built in the United States and through NAFTA factories for consumption in the U.S. market. And if you remember, there was an attempt to get dumping passed against China,
yeah.
and it failed. Well, when it failed, so did U.S. manufacturing. So we went from 6 million bikes being made, which was my customer base, to 600,000 bikes being made. So I needed to reposition my my life, and I was given the opportunity to join Advanced Sports, which at that time only owned the Fuji brand.
Right.
And I took on the challenge and have absolutely loved it.
And now Advanced Sports, how many brands are under your umbrella?
We've got 5 brands, and we license the Terry brand for women's specific bikes.
Tell everybody what the brands are that you've
We
got.
own Fuji is the first brand. We bought SE, Kestrel, Breezer, and then Oval, which is a components brand.
And so for those brands, how's the outlook and what's new for this year?
Well, we have, each brand has its own sort of new, products that we're working with.
Yeah.
So Oval is introducing some really terrific new handlebars for the TT market. We're sponsoring a new team next year, so we really are working on that brand to be sponsoring the sport just like we do with our other brands. In Kestrel, we've got the lightest frame that we've ever made, a 780-gram frame that is absolutely fun to ride.
Wow.
And very, very fast, and obviously very, very light.
Yeah.
In Fuji, we have a track bike that we've introduced some technology that's not been introduced into track before. We went through the UCI protocols to get that frame legal and everything else.
Stickers on the frame.
Stickers on the frame, all that good stuff. And that's a really exciting frame. We've debuted that at Eurobike.
Nice.
And let's see, with SE, we're actually moving that product line into recreation bikes. So lower end road bikes, mountain bikes, hybrids.
Because SE was traditionally a BMX company.
It's a BMX brand. I mean, our, Advanced Sports is the name of the company, but we go by ASI.
Yeah.
And internally, we call it Authentic Stories Inspire, because we're a brand marketing company. We sell stuff, but basically we have these really incredibly authentic brands. Fuji was really the first Japanese brand that entered the U.S. under its own brand. And, I worked in a Fuji dealer and sort of watched that. And they positioned themselves, at the time, Japanese stuff was jappy crappy. It wasn't considered good stuff, but it was excellent quality.
Yeah.
So Fuji was one of the companies that really changed the way the industry viewed Japanese quality products, and now they're considered, the pinnacle.
Yeah.
So, we've resurrected that brand. Fuji's now the only Japanese brand that's still distributed internationally.
Interesting turn of events.
Yes.
Right? When you consider 20 years ago what was going on. Very interesting.
That's pretty cool stuff.
Now, I know that tomorrow you're giving a keynote.
I am.
Tell us about that.
Well, I watched John Burke this morning.
Oh, we'll come to John Burke, but I want to hear about you first.
I'm a little more nervous. He set a high standard. I'm going to talk about diversity in the bicycle industry, which is actually something that I think dovetails in with what John was talking about today. I'm going to talk about really the industry. It's when I started, as a 12-year-old, pretty much it was a bunch of white people.
Yeah.
They looked just like me. They were a little older than me, but they looked pretty much like me. And while it's gotten a little bit more diverse, gender diverse and racially diverse, it still doesn't come anywhere close to mirroring what our society looks like. And I think it's going to be very important for the industry to be aware of that. And the theme for my talk is Mind the Gap, which comes from the London Underground, and it's that space that you don't want to fall into.
Right.
And I'm concerned that if we don't have better awareness of, closing the diversity gap, we're going to hold ourselves back.
On the gender side, because you work with the Terry brand, I'm sure that's something that's very close to what ASI is doing. And so often we hear shrink it and pink it, right? And I think that Georgina Terry, and I'm sure everybody at ASI would probably say, that's not the right way to handle women in cycling, right?
It's really not.
Yeah.
I've had a relationship with Georgina I've known her since the 80s, but we worked with her. My company sourced her bikes for her through the 90s. And she has a real philosophy about fit. There's now other philosophies about fit, but it's no longer shrink it and pink it.
Right.
It's, it's performance, fit is critically important to any cyclist. And now there's plenty of bikes that fit women great.
And it's something that I've watched. Is my wife is an avid cyclist like I am, and to see where 15, 20 years ago, it was pretty much, this is, because she's tall. So here's a men's bike, and hopefully it'll fit you, to today where she's actually getting a bike, an apparel, and components that are specific for her. Yeah. And I think that that's a real revolution and something that is going to help the industry mind that gap. And so that's great.
No, I do. You don't have to come. You're excused. You got it.
Let's talk a little bit about John Burke, because I did have the opportunity to talk to him yesterday, and that's actually coming up next on Good Morning Interbike. How was it received? How did you receive his message?
Well, I have tremendous respect for John. His message is great. He delivers clear, forceful, always a call to action. He does not mince words.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was effective. I talked to quite a few people after. I had a meeting, just before I came here, and we talked a little bit about business, and we talked a lot about what John Burke had to say and how we make it happen. He wants the whole industry sitting at the table, involved, employees, companies, everybody, and he's right.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about Interbike real briefly. You've been coming to Interbike a long time. I've been coming to Interbike a long time. How has it changed, and what does it mean to you personally and for your company?
There's one thing on Fred's thing this morning. It said 31 years. I'm convinced this thing started in 1982. So I'm going to check that out. But in any event, it started out great. It started out as innovative. I think that Pat this year has done some innovative things that keep it alive and keep it vibrant. You have to, Interbike does a good job listening to its customers, and I think that the show reflects that. Our demo was amazing.
Yeah.
And the show so far is great. So I don't know. I love it. But I've been in this business for a while. The social part of coming here, seeing people. I mean, I've worked, it's with so many different great people, and you get to, reconnect a little bit.
I always say it's like old home week or like a high school reunion.
It is like a high school reunion.
I'm sitting here in this glass bubble, and I keep having people walk up and knock and go, David, it's great to see you. So there really is that social aspect.
It's an important part of it. A very important part of it.
Excellent. Well, it's always good to see you, Pat. Thank you for what you're doing for the industry. Thank you for your efforts tomorrow with your keynote.
Thanks.
And good luck here at the show.
Excellent.
It's
Thank
good
you
to see
very much.
you. That's Pat Cunnane
Pleasure.
from ASI, Advanced Sports International. Go ahead and check them out. This is David. We're here at Good Morning Interbike, and we will be back next with John Burke from Trek Bicycles.